And welcome to another episode of Witch Hat Chats, sponsored by Evermoving We Rise and Moonlight Potions and Charms. I am your amazing goddess host, Miss Nikki, and we have our worldwide famous chaos magician with us today. His name is Saul Ravencraft. How are you doing, Saul?
I'm fantastic, Nikki. How are you today?
I am amazing. Thank you so much. Even though it is raining and then it stops and then it rains and then it stops and then it rains, it's just one of those days. But it's still hot. It's still hot. It's still up in the 90s and it's raining. Like, really? So how was your horror thing last week?
It was good. We had a number of people show up, and we watched The Hunger. Next month, we're going to watch Poltergeist. We're keeping it in the 80s for the summer. Is there another one?
Oh, you don't want the other one. The other one's trash.
Yeah,
okay?
No, we only do originals. And I mean, every once in a while, there's a remake that's worth it, where they, maybe took a silent movie. Werner Herzog's Nosferatu is certainly worth watching, but so is the original silent version. So yeah, we try and keep it fun, but we're sticking to the 80s for the summer.
Awesome. Yeah, it seems like everything's just been rolling and everything keeps going on and going on. It's already almost midsummer. Actually, it's almost to the end of our season. So we're going to be starting season 3 pretty soon.
All right.
2 years already gone by. My God, that is so quick.
The wheel keeps on turning.
All right. Of course it does. You want to know what our divination reading is for today?
Always.
All right. So I drink a positive energy tea by Yogi, and it has these cute little sayings on their little tea things. So today's divination reading is, it's not life that matters. It's the courage that we bring to it. Ooh. So Saul, you are so wise. Tell me what that means.
That sounds like you're picking on me.
I mean, the beard shows it,
Well, I often hear people talk about what happens with us and the way that we deal with death. And we say that we believe that there's a continuance, that something goes on, but we don't always act like it. We act like life is the most precious thing there is, and life is precious, but life also always ends. This crude matter ends, and we move on to the next phase. And I think that we can't hang on to life at all costs. We have to be open to what's next in the journey.
The thing about it is life is short. And if things did not end, how can we be able to appreciate them? It reminds me of the saying, it's the moments that take your breath away. That's how you need to be able to live life, is to the fullest, and to be able to, when you look back, you say, okay, I did that. I crossed something off of my bucket list because I had the courage to go do it, right? And you need to be able to live a full life, because that's what Spirit wants you to be. Spirit doesn't want you to be poor and depressed and, miserable all your life. It wants you to actually have some fun, have some glory in it, riddle in it, and everything that it can actually offer. And that way you can be able to appreciate it more once it's gone. Because unfortunately, everything does, you know, but then again, everything is reborn. So there's your cycle, there's your wheel of life right there again.
Right.
So Saul, what are some of the events that you have?
Well, I'm at Curia Arcanum's House of Curiosities. I'll be participating in Witchsfest coming up. Easiest way to keep up is look at my Facebook page, Saul Ravencraft, Executive Occultist, and you'll be able to see all that stuff. What's going on with you?
Oh, we got a lot of stuff going on. We're still getting our 5-star reviews at Moonlight Potions and Charms. You know, my friend Dorothy Morrison, she really absolutely loves the Marie Laveau Altar on the Go. You know, she thinks it's an amazing product. And so we're very happy about that and being able to please our people with amazing service, amazing products, and fast shipping. And we still have our readings that we're doing as well as our magical coaching. And of course, we have our products such as our baths, our bath bombs, our candles, our oils, and our spell kits, and so much more. And don't forget about the Crossroads Academy, which everything is starting at $25. So not everything's starting at, but there are classes that start at $25. But then, you know, Moonlight Post and Charms, we always have so much going on. So if there's something that you actually would like to want, just let me know and I'll see if I can be able to get it or we can be able to create it for you. Also, we have with Evermoving We Rise, Lithia is tonight at 8:00 p.m. And we're really looking forward to that because we are going to be empowered. So I'm looking forward to doing that empowerment ritual and really getting us psyched about the upcoming remaining portions of the year and for us to kind of tackle that and live life to the fullest. But on June 27th, we have the Dark Moon. So make sure that you check our Facebook page for that. And if you want details about our rituals, you check out the Phoenix Key Oracles on our website. I'm also going to be speaking at the Mystic South Conference, which is July 15th through the 17th at Atlanta, Georgia. And I'll be doing 2 different types of workshops as well. So I'm looking forward to doing those. And as Saul has mentioned, I'm also doing the Witchsfest USA, July 15th through the 17th online as well, giving 2 workshops. And Saul and I are actually raffling off 1 ticket each. So basically you go to our website, which is in the summary, and the last day to enter is July 4th. And we will announce the winner with Star Ravenhawk on July the 10th. So we're really looking forward to that. And also, if you need a personal appearance from either me or Saul or both of us, because we are so better together. Don't you think so, Saul?
You bet.
Just let us know and we can be able to appear online for you. And it's not a big deal. So just let us know. We can give you that conversation. So Saul, let me ask you, should we introduce our guest host?
Oh, yes, let's do that.
An avid Guinness drinker, this guest host has been serving her Appalachian community of Asheville as the news editor of the Wild Hunt. She has a very important job at Mystic South Conference as their, and notified this is a really, really important job, chief bottle washer and lightning bug herder. You know, that is absolutely the most important job, I think, at Mystic South Conference. She works at Asheville's Raven and Crone, and we are proud to present the Southern Belle, Star Bustamonte. How you doing, Star?
Well, thanks for having me on. I'm doing well. And yourself?
Of course I'm doing well, but it's too damn hot here.
It is indeed hot. Very hot in North Carolina today.
Oh, yeah. It is. And it's probably even hotter in Texas where Mr. Saul is.
Mm-hmm.
We've been in the hundreds, but I'm not complaining. What good would it do?
So, Star, how did you become the editor of The Wild Hunt? And for those of our audience who don't know what The Wild Hunt is, could you kind of explain that for us?
Sure. So first of all, The Wild Hunt is an online publication that serves the pagan and pagan adjacent community, covering the news that is important and of interest to the pagan community. So anytime there's something going on that is going to impact the pagan community or things that pagans are doing, then the Wild Hunt tries to make sure and report on those things. We publish news 5 days a week, and then perspective, which is also opinion, on Fridays and Saturdays. And we serve a global community. We have correspondents not just in the US, but in the UK, in Norway, in Australia, in Mexico, in South America, in Europe in general. So we have pretty wide coverage. And how I came to be the news editor, basically, Heather Green had been the managing editor, and when she stepped down, Manny Tejeda took over as editor-in-chief, and Eric Scott remained our weekend editor, and they thought that I would be a good choice for news editor because I am a bit of a news junkie and tend to follow things closely. I had already been doing the card of the week, which is a tarot card pull of one card that kind of and gives you a forecast for, what's going to be happening for the week. And had also contributed some stories, I think, at that time. So they tapped me for it, and I was jet lagged and in Spain, and foolishly agreed to their evil plan. So Guinness might have been involved.
Yeah, Saul is actually the Guinness expert here. He knows more about it than I do. Honey, we can't hear you.
We balance each other out.
So when it comes to the news, is there anything in particular you're looking for as far as the pagan issues, or is it just anything that's on the pagan issues?
Pretty much anything that might impact or be of interest to the pagan and pagan adjacent community. Obviously anything that is that would impact religious freedom. Those issues are particularly important. We don't, as a rule, cover, hard, fast politics. But clearly when you have, legislation or decisions being handed down from the Supreme Court that will unduly impact the pagan community, I don't think it's any secret that we have a larger percentage of LGBTQ plus folks that are pagan. Our trans folk in particular are often at greatest risk, and also people of color, which, all of those vulnerable minorities, never mind things that are impacting women within the community. Those are stories we definitely try to cover as much as we can. We also had some pretty intense coverage at the beginning of Russia invading Ukraine, because we have a correspondent who's in Norway who had connections with Ukrainians, and we even did some coverage with some folks in Russia, pagans who were really kind of slapped into the middle of things. Manny actually conducted an interview with someone where he said he never thought he'd be doing an interview where you could hear bombs going off in the background. But he did indeed, do that. So, we try to focus on anything that we think might be of interest or of importance to pagans. We tend to cover a fair amount of archaeology stories, especially those that have relevance to magical practice, to spiritual practices that are going to resonate with pagans that have an alignment, like say to, the Minoan practices, Greek practices, heathenry, you name it. If there is any kind of new archaeological find that reflects how that informs our practice, especially for those pagans who are Reconstructionists, then those stories are really vital and important so that people know that, hey, this thing that we've been doing, here is some archaeological proof of some foundation for the practice that you're doing.
What are some hot topics going on now that are particularly relevant? I can't talk today. That maybe are not getting the same sort of coverage in other news outlets?
Well, I think a lot of times that if you look at mainstream news coverage when it comes to the pagan community, can you imagine? Often magical practitioners, witches, not so much heathens, but witches and pagans just in general. Often the way that we are referenced in news stories is, self-proclaimed, or, in a way that if you use that kind of terminology with any other religious practice, I mean, can you imagine if they said, John Smith, who is a self-professed Baptist or
right,
self-professed Jew or whatever? I mean, the mainstream viewers, their heads would blow up.
We're going to have a chat with a so-called Catholic priest.
Yeah. Right. I mean, so there really is some, there's a huge amount of dissonance there, and tone deafness when it comes to the media in mainstream media in general.
Well, I think a term for that is news bias.
Yes, that would be
a biased
correct.
opinion. Inserting an editorialization about the person that you're talking to, and supposedly you're not supposed to do that in journalism, but what do I know?
Right. Well, and I think too, I think that we have come to this place in journalism and media where sometimes there are not two sides to things. I think both siderism has gotten us to a place that has allowed certain viewpoints to be given a level of validity that they do not deserve. anyone who reports news, and I don't care who you are or who you report for, and I don't care how neutral you try to be, we all have bias. I mean, that is just a fact. The key is to keep the opinion out of it, and state the facts, like Joe Friday. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. And it's a whole hell of a lot harder than most people realize to do that kind of writing.
Right.
And as an editor,
because you got to think about both sides, because both sides, they have their own opinions, but you got to figure out what's the facts in between. And that can be very hard. Number one, to distinguish from the research in the first place. Mm-hmm. And then just trying to put it in a way that the average person can understand, instead of putting it in these big, intelligent words that most people don't know, right?
Well, I think that, when you elevate an opinion that is not, anytime you are reporting, when the Wild Hunt reports on something, which, now granted, we are tiny, our combined readership is probably not much more over 100,000. But of course, I mean, so that's what, excuse me, a fraction of the pagan community. But when you choose to, when we do a story on something, we're elevating the attention for that issue, and how we choose the stories to cover. Sometimes, there are things that we do not cover, for the very reason that we do not want to elevate that issue within the community. And I think that it requires care and careful thought and planning into the stories that we do cover. Is it going to be beneficial? Is it going to be harmful? Is the harm that it's going to cost be worth it? Is it going to benefit anybody? Because if it's not benefiting anyone, then is it really something we want to report on? But it's, everything that we do is careful and thought out and focused on, serving the pagan community and pagan adjacent, because a lot of polytheists do not necessarily identify as pagan, but are more pagan adjacent.
Yeah, and the articles that you have are absolutely wonderful, because you got something for like everybody, and I kind of like that. And a lot of them are very insightful, because they will show you things that you don't know. Like the last article that I read was the one that you had written about social media and pagans, and how they really, and accounts being stolen and everything. And I've had some hard times with that, because Facebook doesn't like to be contacted. Twitter don't like to be contacted. Instagram don't want to be contacted. So it's like they have no customer service at all, trying to find somebody to talk to when you have a problem with their account. And like I said, that was a well-written article that you wrote.
Thank you. That's just one. There's a certain level of disparity when it comes to how pagans are, how we're represented in the media, but also how social media is almost kind of stacked. Unless you have a tremendous following, and even then, I know people who have, lots and lots of followers, and they can't get a blue check mark or, have a verified account, simply because they're not, they're not published by a big name publisher. the Wild Hunt cannot even get verified on Twitter or Facebook. You know, we can't even get a Wikipedia page. We've been trying to get a Wikipedia page, you know, and we've been around for over 15 years, almost 20 years at this point. Jason Pitzel started the Wild Hunt as a blog in, I want to say like maybe 2001. So, you know, I mean, there are significant challenges to not only reporting on what's happening within the pagan community, but also kind of balancing out that disparity within the coverage that you see and how it impacts us on social media platforms. You know, I mean, the rise of witch talk has, you know, been really interesting to watch. I try to stay off of TikTok, but I know that there's a lot of witches on witch talk.
Oh yeah, and you're also over the Mystic South conference. Were you one of the founders?
I'm the director for Mystic South. We have everybody that is currently on the board. We all started together, and we each have our own areas that we oversee. I am, you know, I manage the funds and basically hold the corporate name. So I've been in it from the beginning. Mystic South arose out of a desire to provide an academic track conference for the Southeast, because there really was not anything in the Southeast. You know, a lot of there were a lot of festivals. I mean, and you can find festivals still pretty much everywhere. But as far as conferences go, and especially those that have a real focus on presenting academic research, there aren't very many of those. Not for pagans. You know, Sacred Space. There's a couple on the West Coast. And beyond that, I'm really not sure how many there are, but it's a handful, and most of them are small. And there's a reason for that, because, you know, PantheaCon was the huge one, right? Mm-hmm. Which is no more. And I think that there have been some other smaller ones that intended to step up and kind of fill that void. But then, you know, the pandemic kind of, I think, lay waste to a lot of that. But I think that it's really important for the pagan community to have that element of academia, if you will, as well as providing a platform for pagans to present their ideas, exchange ideas, to network, and to really find common ground that we can all meet on and exchange ideas. And I think that's just vitally important. If you're going to have a religion, however broad you would like to stretch that umbrella, and who you want to include, you know, under the umbrella of paganism, I think that we have to have common ground. We have to have common ideas that we can agree on or argue about, as the case may be, but also to find that place of unity, because I think it makes a difference in whether or not, as a belief system or systems, for us to be taken seriously.
Definitely. So tell us, about Mystic South. I mean, I know it's going to have a lot of workshops because I'm going there. Of course, you're going to get to see me. You're so privileged.
I will. Okay, so there are basically three elements to Mystic South: theory, practice, and play. We have the academic track, which is also known as papers, which papers stands for Polytheist and Pagan Education Research Symposium, which is quite a mouthful, which is why we go with papers. Then we have our regular workshop track, which, is pretty much a little bit of everything. And this year I think we have a total of like 85 presenters, which is quite a lot. The schedule is jam packed. We start at 8:00 in the morning, and workshops run until about, anywhere from 6 to 7. And then we have entertainment in the evenings. You can go to the Mystic South website, which is mystic-south.com. And you can find out, you can actually look at what the current schedule is. Just be mindful that the closer we get, we will have changes. And so the schedule that you see today may not be the schedule that you have by the time we get to the actual event. We have 3 headliners this year. Stephanie Rose Bird, who's written a number of books on Hoodoo and magical practices along those lines. David Salisbury, who's an American witch, and Thorn Mooney, who is also an American witch. And then we also have, for papers, we have a keynote speaker, and that's Carla Elaine Johnson, who is an academic and PhD. So we're pretty excited to finally be able to get back to having the conference. As you know, we were forced to cancel in 2020 and 21 just because it was not safe. We did not believe it was safe to hold the conference, and we do seem to have a higher percentage of at-risk folks. So we made what we felt was the ethical choice, and we canceled. And since we're on that, and since I have wandered into that topic, I just want to state that for anyone who is considering coming, we require vaccination, and we are going to require masks. Mm-hmm. And if that does not work for you, then you ought not come, because we will not compromise on that in any way, shape, or form over my dead body.
Mm-hmm. Bravo. I definitely believe in vaccinations, and I definitely believe in boosters as well. So yes, and masks.
Yeah, we're urging everyone to, if they received either the J&J one shot or have had, the one of the mRNA vaccines, and have had both shots, to definitely get that booster. And of course, if you're over 50, you should have your second booster as well. I'm fully vaxxed and boosted. And if they said tomorrow I needed another shot, I would, bloody well be going and getting another shot. So that's just the world that I live in. I know that is, with some folks, that is not a popular opinion, but it is the stance that we have taken for the conference, because we believe that is the safest way forward. And I would be lying if I said I did not worry every day about possibly having, a viral event, and not in the way one would like.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the thing about it is we had to take boosters and vaccinations before we entered school. So I don't really, sorry, I don't really understand people not wanting it.
Yeah, no, I don't either. It doesn't make any sense to me. I never thought that this would be, the hill some folks would be interested in dying on, but apparently it is. Now as for Mystic South, the event itself runs the 15th through the 17th, but Thursday night we do allow people to come in. I think registration, we're open from 4 till 7 on Thursday evening, because a lot of people will be coming in for the conference and arriving on Thursday. We also host we get somebody to host a meet and greet. This year, I believe it is Covenant of the Goddess is hosting the meet and greet. They have a suite within the hotel. And for those who are coming to Mystic South, and when you come to registration, we will have that information available as to where the meet and greet is going to take place. But, so that's really the only thing going on Thursday night. And then starting at 8 a.m. on Friday morning, classes begin. So it's a full day. I think we've got 7 rooms, all up and running at the same time. So there's a lot going on, and I sympathize for anybody trying to decide what they are going to want to see, because or what workshops they want to attend, because there's quite a lot of choices.
Yeah, there is a lot of choices. There's even workshops that I would like to attend, but I can't because I'm given one.
Yeah. We also have in the evenings, like Tuatha Deo will be performing on Friday night, and then we have the Phoenix Ball on Saturday night. So there will be, big events on both of those nights. Heather hosts karaoke. And then there are some evening rituals also scheduled that will, overlap, that'll be going on at the same time, because not everybody wants to go to a ritual, and not everybody wants to go, wants to go hear music or whatever. So we try to provide a variety of choices. It really, and some of us would prefer to be in our rooms.
So what is the Phoenix Ball?
So the Phoenix is the symbol of Atlanta, right? The Phoenix, which rises from the ashes. And so the Phoenix Ball is usually some type of costume ball. I think we just have a general theme this year of it being the Phoenix Ball, if you will. And you can come in costume if you wish. Face masks will not be optional, short of when you're drinking a drink or what have you. But so it's always interesting to see how people what kind of costumes they will wear. And we have a DJ for that event. So, come dance, drink, be merry. Do not lick people. Never thought I'd have to say that, but here we are.
Well, we are at a pagan festival, I think.
Yeah.
You heard that, Saul.
But no licking. The pandemic forbids licking of people in public that you do not know. It's just how it is, sadly.
So so I'm assuming that you're going to also have a lot of vendors as well.
Oh yes, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, we do. We have over 30 vendors. We have one room. We have one of the ballrooms that is completely dedicated to vendors, and we have a little bit of everything. I think we have some or all of the vendors listed on the website. You can also, we have an official Mystic South group for anyone who's attending, and the vendors often will post information on what they're going to be offering. So you can always apply to join the group, and you have to answer the questions or we're not going to let you in. It's always hilarious to me that people will like want to join the group and then they don't answer the questions or answer all of them. And we don't let people in unless they agree to our terms, and, which includes, not harassing people and just generally not being a word that I'm not allowed to say here.
It's okay to say dick here. Don't be a dick.
Oh, don't be a dickhead? Yes, we don't allow dickheads.
We can say that.
Okay, good.
Yes, dickheads is okay to say. That's not a bad word. That's not even a 4-letter word.
It's just a lifestyle choice.
Oh, yeah, we're very controversial. So with the vending room, how long is it open? I mean, does it open up at 8 o'clock as well?
That's a good question. I think most days it probably opens at 9 and then is usually open until, 7 or 8 maybe. It's been so long, I can't remember. And since I don't really have to do anything because we have the fabulous Gypsy Teague who runs the vending room, I don't really have to deal with any of that. So, but it's open for most of the conference, and I think it's open to the public. Like, you don't even have to, you can come and shop without buying a ticket, I think. But we're hoping for a really good conference after being on hiatus for 2 years. Mm-hmm. I just learned last night that pretty much all of the rooms are sold out in our block for the hotel. I think we'll be posting some links for other hotels in the area. So for people who are coming that have not, yet booked a room, they may have to look outside of the Crowne Plaza, which for anyone who's not familiar with the area, the Crowne Plaza on the perimeter at Ravinia is north of town and sits right off of the perimeter, which is the loop that runs around the city. And getting there from the airport, the easiest way is to take the MARTA, which is Atlanta's mass transit system. And they don't have a shuttle from the airport for the Crowne Plaza, but they do have a shuttle that runs from the MARTA station, which is just a few blocks from the hotel. For the brave and the bold, you can walk from the MARTA station to the hotel, but it will be July in Atlanta. Mm. So that's not for everyone. So you can get at the station and then call the hotel and ask for the shuttle to come pick you up, and they will do that.
Awesome. And with that, we need to go into a commercial and hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
I'm Saul Ravencraft, co-host of Witch Hat Chats. I understand just how confusing and chaotic it can be to open to a path of magic and manifestation. Everything seems to turn on its head. I want to be an ally as you find the way upon your path. My studio setup will let us do readings, coaching, and exploration virtually, just as though you were sitting across the table from me. One size does not fit all, and we will work together to craft the right approaches to build your practice, your confidence, and your power using the tools of divination, magical works, and spirit connections. It's never too late to embrace a new path and emerge empowered. Go to texasmojoman.com and select Contact to begin. There's a message now. Let's get started working on your very good fortune.
You know, no matter what you call them, a voodoo doll, a puppet, or a Barbie doll, a doll is a doll is a doll. Doll magic has existed for ages. So other than the Hollywood voodoo doll, most practitioners don't understand what to do with them. So do you know that you can use dolls for healing, prosperity, empowerment, and many other magical purposes? So in my class, The Creative Uses of Dolls, learn how to use your imagination and to use your doll for all kinds of purposes and take your magic to the next level. My workshop is on Sunday, July 17th at 10 a.m. in the Morgan Le Fay Water Room. And if you don't have your tickets to Witchsfest USA, go to www.witchfestusa.org. And I'm looking forward to doing doll magic with you at Witchsfest USA. Enter to win a chance for a free ticket to Witchsfest 2022. Go to www.witchhatchats.com/register-to-register-win. And the last day to enter is July 4th, and we will announce the winner with Star Ravenhawk on July 10th on our show, Witch Hat Chats. And good luck. We are all magical beings. As a solitary magical practitioner, you can grow and develop yourself independently. Yet, the solitary path can be difficult and lonely with setbacks and self-doubts. And as you find your way without affirmations, reinforcements, or a safe space to practice, what do you do when things bump back? At Evermoving We Rise, our name is our lifestyle. We realize that everyone's spiritual journey is extremely personal, but more easily traveled with reinforcement. We teach you to understand and use the magical tools at your fingertips, while being upheld and developing personal responsibility for your own spirituality. We have a safe space to practice and learn as you master your craft. When situations bump back, you will have the entire community behind you, as we are a magical family who work to sustain each other. Discover the benefits of working within a society dedicated to helping you grow on your personal path. Start today. Visit us at our website, Linktree, or Facebook page, and discover why we don't fit in the box. Cursing has been around since the beginning of magic. You know, some people believe that the negative energies from the curse comes back to you. But what about if that's not necessarily the case? Your wording can create a back door to your curses, resulting in no negative consequences. Ooh, isn't that interesting? Well, in my workshop, Backdoor Cursing, you will learn the difference between a hex, a jinx, and a curse, and how to word your curses to create a backdoor, and when those curses are being used on you. So my workshop is Friday, July 15th at 10 a.m. in the Marie Laveau's Underwater Realm. So if you don't have your tickets to Witchsfest USA, go to www.witchsfestusa.org. And I'm looking forward to cursing with you at Witchsfest USA. Enter to win a chance for a free ticket to Witchsfest 2022. Go to www.witchhatchats.com/register-to-register-win. And the last day to enter is July 4th. And we will announce the winner with Star Ravenhawk on July 10th on our show, Witch Hat Chats. And good luck. Have you heard? People are raving about Moonlight Potions and Charms with 5-star reviews. 5 stars for excellent products, amazing services, and fast shipping. We are an Etsy star seller. Listen to some of our reviews. Author and owner of Wicked Witch Studios, Dorothy Morrison said, "I'm in love. The Marie Laveau Altar on the Go is absolutely amazing and jam-packed with everything one could possibly need, no matter what sort of magic they're planning. Kudos on a great product." Jess said, "Absolutely love the Papa Legba prayer candle. I've been hunting for a good Papa Legba candle forever with zero success, and I adore this one." High Priestess said, "Adorable wooden coffins. Can't wait to use them." And Angelica said about our ancestor oil, "Exceeding my expectations. Packaged with love and smells amazing. Definitely recommending and buying again." Make sure to check out our Bubbling Cauldron Bath Bombs, available in Luck of the Irish, Lavender, and Dragon's Blood. Our magical milk baths are also available in Papa Legba Purification, White Flowers, Lucky Love, and Van Van. All are homemade and spelled with love, care, and intention. Our Happily Ever After candle line is designed with you in mind. There is so much more in our Wicked store to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you. What would you do if you open up your door to find a small coffin box? You know, since the days of Marie Laveau, coffin boxes have been used and conjured for a variety of reasons, including psychological warfare, intimidation, and transformation, just to name a few. My workshop is called Shine the Light on Coffin Boxes, and it is on Sunday, July 17th at 12:30 p.m. in the Oakwood Room. You know, I'll be teaching the symbolic meanings of coffins and how to use them for a variety of magical purposes, including healing. And although not required, I will be selling my wooden coffin boxes that are 6 inches in length at the class for $14.50. They're very well made and they open very nicely. These are really, really nice boxes. And you can either IM me and I can deliver them to you at the class or ship them to you. Or you can purchase one there. It doesn't matter. Now, I don't know if I'm going to have enough coffin boxes for everybody, so make sure to get there as soon as you possibly can. And like I previously said, the wooden coffins are not required for you to have. But it's always good to be able to have something to look at and to touch the object while you're learning about it. You may want to bring a notebook to take notes. And if you're not registered for Mystic South 2022, go to www.mystic-south.com to obtain your tickets. And I am looking forward to conjuring with you at Mystic South 2022. Are you at a crossroads? Not sure which direction to go? Or do you feel powerless? Or is there another question that needs answering? At Moonlight Potions and Charms, our many services assist our clients to emerge their authentic selves and embrace the power and magic that lies within them. Many of our readings provide the clarity one needs to pursue their life's destiny.
Our soulful readings assist one to discover what is required to be in alignment with one's soul journey. Our tarot readings provide clarity and coaching for those who are at a crossroads in life. Our animal medicine readings show what our animal brothers and sisters can teach you about yourself and your life. Unsure where to start your shadow work? Book a shadow reading. There is so much more in our Wicked store, so visit us at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and embrace the power of your own magic.
Communicating with the ancestors is a very important part of many magical practices. Some people think that if you can't see or hear them, you can't communicate with them. Well, you know what? That's just simply not the case. There are many tools that we can use to communicate with them, and many of them you already have, like your tarot deck. You may have some bones. You may have a pendulum, and so many other different ways, even if you don't have any of these. But in my workshop, Tools Used to Communicate with Your Ancestors, I will be teaching you how to use those tools for ancestor communication. And you may want to bring your divination tools and a notebook so that you can have your hands on these things while you're learning. And so the workshop is Saturday, July 16th at 9:30 a.m. in the Oakwood Room. And if you're not registered for Mystic South 2022, go to www.mystic-south.com to obtain your ticket. And I'm looking forward to talking about the ancestors with you at Mystic South 2022.
At Witch Hat Chats, we promote magical knowledge, arts, and music from all cultures. We invite you to join us as our guest to share your practice, especially if your traditions are lesser known. Email us at witchhatchats@gmail.com. Tune in every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Facebook page. Welcome back to Witch Hat Chats. We are chatting with Star Bustamonte about witchy journalism and the Mystic South Conference and living life in the world as a witch. Maybe a world that doesn't always appreciate you. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
So you mentioned before the idea of this sort of rejection of a person's path using the so-called and self-professed and all of that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Now, is that something that has just always been that way? Has there been a rise in that? Because I do remember in the olden days talking interviews that they did with witches and that kind of thing, where they didn't necessarily use that kind of terminology. In the 80s, it seemed like there was a little less of that. And somewhere along the lines it came back. When did the worm turn?
Well, I think that, paganism and witchcraft in particular has really made just a roaring comeback, if you will. I'm old enough, and you, Saul, are probably old enough to remember the Satanic Panic.
Oh, yeah. I was actually playing Dungeons and Dragons during the Satanic Panic, so I was getting it all over.
Oh, I was a kid during that portion of the time, so yeah, I remember that.
So there was that whole element of just just people being hysterical. when it came to any kind of magical practice. But I think a lot of what is driving what we are seeing right now has to do with, the elevation of the evangelical far right. And that matters. It has an impact in how people perceive things, the amount of influence that a minority in this country is really having on policy, on the type of legislation that is being passed. So I think that is a very big part of what we are seeing, and why we are seeing more of this kind of almost derogatory kind of presentation. It's very passive aggressive. When you use terms like self-proclaimed witch or, self-professed or whatever, I mean, that is, it's a very passive aggressive kind of slur, if you will. Sure. So I think that, that element, that rise of influence with what we've been seeing all across, not just the U.S., but I think it's important to note that we're seeing this kind of extremism, for lack of a better term, happening around the world. I mean, if you look at what is happening in some of the countries in Europe, it's not much different than what is happening here. I mean, one of the big differences in the U.S. is, we all have guns, and so we shoot each other. Excuse me. Apparently, for no reason in many cases, or some weird manufactured reason that exists only in our heads. So I think that's a big part of it.
So what do you think is making these so-called evangelicals as successful as they are right now? What are they doing that the opposition is not doing that gets them so centered? Well, I think that part of it is squeaky wheel gets the grease. They are loud, and they have the ability to stay on point. They will say the same thing over and over again, even if it's not true. And we've certainly seen that over the course of the last few years, that things that are absolutely not true, that are provably false. And I think that that's a really important point that we need to make, is that, we have these, conspiracy theories that are provably false, but yet are getting, a fair amount of airplay. And I think that the ability to continue to repeat something over and over again, regardless of whether it's true or not, and staying on point, definitely is a factor. But I also think that, for lack of a better word, even though this is a minority group, when presented against the entire population of the United States, because the reality is that the United States is becoming more secular all the time, that the only word that really applies is zealotry, and extremism. If you don't believe what they believe, then they don't really care what happens to you, other than that they're going to remove you from their path, in some cases by whatever means is necessary. Right. And we've seen that over and over again, but I think that we're also coming to a place where we are about to hit a shift in, not about to, we're already in the process of a shift happening.
I think that, for anybody who follows astrology, who believes in, the shifting of the ages and that where planets are and what they're doing have an impact. I think all of that has an impact, and people don't like change. They don't want to change. They want things to be exactly the same as they were yesterday. And now I think a lot of that is the fact that we want stability, and in a lot of ways that stability is reflected by being able to count on, look at so here's a great example. Look at the insanity over light bulbs. Okay. So we are moving towards, not being able to get anything other than an LED bulb or something that is much longer lasting and conserves more power and all of that. And when they said they were doing away with incandescent light bulbs, I mean, people literally lost their minds over it. And that's a small change. You look at the inclusion of, more and more people. One of the things that I always loved about paganism compared to other religions is that we all stand in a circle, which means that we all have the same access to the center, to our gods, to our source, to divinity. It's all within reach, right? Because we all have the same reach. We all have access to that same center. And when you eliminate somebody acting as intermediary for you to allow you to access that power, then they feel threatened. And I think that what is happening is nothing more than we are seeing a reordering of everything, whether we're talking politics, whether we're talking civics, whether we are talking religion, that, more and more big industries and companies, they are no longer the gatekeepers. They can try, but look at what's happened to the music industry. And I think that you're going to see that across the boards in many, many other areas. And people don't want to lose their power, for, as long as this country has been in existence, it has been, and I'm sorry, Saul, but old white men who have been in control of everything. And they are not keen to be taking even sharing that power with, old white women like me, or God
young white women like me.
Right. Well, but you're still a puppy. We can deal with you, right? I mean, and that is the perception.
Trust me, they can't deal with me.
Right. But that's the perception. And the idea that, God forbid, people of color, people who are different, whether they're, different because they're witches or pagans or because they're people of color, it doesn't matter. They don't like different, and they sure as hell are not going to lose their hold on power. I think, to go back to what, Saul's original question as to what has shifted. I think having a black president, just people flip the hell out. The idea that we could have a black man in charge of things, it caused people to lose their minds. They lost their minds. I think that's a big part of it.
I also see a lot of rage in things. We have rage news where we get three people on a news channel to yell at each other for 3.5 minutes, and then we go sell a car. There doesn't really seem to be discourse anymore, and you can't just look at somebody and go, well, that guy's an idiot, so we're going to make sure he doesn't have responsibility over these things anymore. But he doesn't have to go into the oubliette. It feels like we've just gotten to a point where everything has got to be one way or the other. Everything's very binary, and we don't seem to be able to spend time in the gray, which is where you actually solve problems. Have you observed that, and what have you observed in that area?
Oh, I've definitely seen that. anybody who spends more than 10 minutes on social media can see that for themselves. I think that it's interesting how much of people that are on the ideological right have co-opted the language of the ideological left, you know, and kind of have transformed the meaning of some of the words. And also how many of, you know, like the word woke, for instance, you know, which has its roots in the Black community and then somehow got co-opted by, you know, nice white people that were well-meaning, which is, there's so much irony in that. But also, I mean, let's be clear. We live in a capitalistic society and rage drives the machine. And I think that part of the reason for that binary that we are seeing, that we have people who exemplify that, who push these, you know, who push the rage, is because it's profitable. If you think back to Rush Limbaugh and when he first got started, you know, he definitely escalated over the years. But you know, people like Rush Limbaugh, people like Ann Coulter, you know, I mean, that's just off the top of my head. They motivated their bases in order to make money. And one of the ways that you do that is you get people angry, because angry people, right, you know, make terrible decisions, which this has been one of the things I've said all along, is that, you know, angry people and terrified people make terrible choices because they're not thinking clearly. You know, if you've ever been in a situation where you were so like almost paralyzed with fear, you're reacting on a gut level, you know, on a primal level. You're not thinking about the action that you're taking. You know, your lizard brain has kicked in and it's either fight or flight. And that's all there is to it. And I think rage is really similar to that. You know, it is a very primal emotion. And if you want people to act and you don't want them to have thinking too clear about what actions they're taking, then pissing them off to the point that they are ungrounded and unfocused and are, you know, easily led, then that's the path to take, really, you know?
Right. And history is repeating itself. Like, for example, the witch trials, the Salem witch trials and the European witch trials, they were done not to discriminate women, okay, but they were done for profit, because when you declare somebody to be a witch, it doesn't matter whether they're male or female, you take all their property and everything that belongs to them away from them. It was profitable for the judges. It was profitable for the people who went to find them, the inquisitioners, and everybody. That's the reason why it stayed so long. And then also, when you look back at like our world history for like World War II with Germany, what they did is the German people were so desperate to have a leader and to get out of the economy that they were in. They were looking for anybody. So that's how Hitler was able to step up and do the stuff that he was able to do. And to me, it just seems like history is constantly repeating itself because, number one, we're not learning from the past. And like you said, people are getting angry, but instead of trying to calm down and figure out what is the next step, they're reacting instead of responding. And when you get people to react, you got all this violence coming out. And a lot of things is also done about the economy right now, because we've got people in Washington. Everyone in Washington makes a minimum of $1 million minimum, even when they're first going in. That's what they make. So they have absolutely no clue what the person who is living on Social Security, and that's all they live on, is going through. They have absolutely no idea how to do that. And they want to keep their millions. So they're keeping us apart by that. And I think a lot of it has to be not only with the minorities and everything, but with the people. We're tired of being told what to do by the ones that are rich, and they have no clue what the hell we're going through, because they tax us more than what they get taxed. And we kind of want something to be a little bit more fair.
So we say.
Right. Well, and I think that that's the point. I do want to correct you, though. I mean, to serve in either the House or the Senate is not $1 million salary. Now, they may pull in money from other sources, and but it's important to note, too, that money brought in on campaigns has to go into the campaign. They can't live off that money. I just wanted to note that. The journalist in me went, ding. But, well, I mean, there certainly is an element of dissonance. You know, I mean, when I go to listen to a candidate speak, you know, I want to know, do they know how much a gallon of milk is? Have they even shopped for their own groceries? You know, how far removed are they from what the average person is experiencing on a daily basis? And I think that is a definite important piece. But I think you also have to remember that civics are not taught much, and they're certainly not taught well. I mean, we have people that don't even understand how the components of our government you know, function, that they couldn't even name the branches of government, you know, and frankly, that's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. You know, I mean, often I have conversations with people about, you know, how the structure of our government, how it works, how, you know, how laws come to be, what precedence is when it comes to legal challenges, and why that matters. And I'm blown away by how absolutely uneducated or ignorant that people really are when it comes to how our laws work. I mean, most people don't even know what the law is. I mean, literally, they do not know. And then when you inform them, they're like, well, that can't be right. And it's like, well, here, let me show you. Mm-hmm.
Well, and we've also reached a level of complexity in our law where it's difficult to know whether or not you are breaking the law. I'm pretty sure anyone can be found to be breaking the law somehow if someone needs to. And that's not a good state of affairs either.
Well, I mean, and I think that really, really kind of depends on, well, first of all, it depends on what state you're in. You know, the laws of states are so weird and interesting, and where many of them have their roots is, of course, goes, you know, well back in history, and are very often grounded in what I can only describe as, you know, discriminatory, and many even having their roots in slavery. A lot of how our law enforcement operates, you know, how our education system operates, a lot of this has its roots going to the past and prior to the Civil Rights Act, for sure. So, I mean, the ability, but laws, yes, are not often, they are not plainly written. And having someone who functions as an advocate that can interpret those, but also most states have fairly decent websites these days. And I mean, and I think this is the thing for someone my age that just really, it's kind of mind blowing. When I was growing up and I wanted to know something, I had to go to the library and look it up, or I had to call someone and ask questions. And now Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We have a computer that we carry in our pockets on our persons that is more powerful by many times than what it took to launch the first spacecraft, which is just mind-boggling. So, I mean, but I think also one of the problems with the very resource that can be so amazing is that unless you have to know how to use the internet, for every valid result that you're going to get in any search, you're going to probably have 5 that are crappy resources or that are going to spread misinformation. And this is a huge problem. And now I'm all for not, deregulating or for, keeping things free, keeping the internet free or what have you. But you have to have some level of, things that are provably false. Those things should, they need to be classified as provably false. And we still haven't figured this out. We still have not figured this out.
One of the resources that I've started using to identify the value of news reporting that I see is if you just go into your favorite search engine and type news bias, you will find organizations that are devoted to categorizing the quality of news output that comes from different organizations. And the ones that I tend to see is they look for right or left bias, and they look for a level of truthiness, whether they tend to have verifiable things. And I try whenever I see something, because often when you go to a story, you can look for full coverage, and you'll see a variety of different sources talking about the same idea, and I found it very helpful. I found a few sources like Associated Press and an API. And a few of those that tend to be a just the facts ma'am kind of organization. And when I see something that sounds a little crazy, I can go and look and go, oh yeah, those people specialize in crazy. So maybe that's not my source. And it's a very, very simple thing to use. And I found that a few resources that I used to like are not necessarily my favorites anymore because they're just not trustworthy. And it kind of sucks when a site that echoes your feelings sometimes, and calls out, those things that you think need to be called out may not be telling you the truth. And I can handle the truth, but you have to seek it out.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and I think that, and you're right, for the most part, the AP is pretty middle of the road. And by AP, I mean Associated Press. Reuters is another.
Like Reuters.
Those are my 2 mainstays for factually based reporting. And there are others. I mean, NPR is generally pretty good. Public television, anything connected with public television or public radio is generally pretty good and unbiased. I think that, we want to hear news that is going to reinforce what we already believe. I mean, that is just the reality of being human. We want to be validated. We want to hear news that is going to reflect the views that we already have, and I think that is one of the biggest reveals about where this country is headed more than anything, is that you have people who will believe who will reinforce a lie because it reflects their own values. I mean, that is just the sad reality of the world that we are living in this moment.
And more than that, it sells cars and beer.
Oh, yes, that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But I very deeply believe that is changing. Some of my more cynical friends, which, I will just tell you that we are living in a very, serious predicament when I am the voice of reason and not, sarcasm is generally my middle name. And I have been far outstripped by many of my friends, but I have hope, and I believe that we are very much on track to overcome a lot of this. And hey, it may not even happen in my lifetime, but I think eventually we will get there. The biggest issue in my mind, in addition to all of the other stuff that's going on, whether we're talking politically, education, whatever, religiously, climate change does not care. Climate change does not give a shit what you believe, what you practice, who you vote for. Climate change is coming for all of us. And if we don't get our shit together, and evidenced by just the weather this week, we are in the first half of June still, and we are seeing triple-digit temperatures over much of the South, the Southeast, and it's and moving on up into up to the coast.
Yeah. So you mentioned before that a lot of people don't seem to have the kind of civics education that we would need, and I know that when an issue comes up, something that is critical, a lot of the people I know immediately talk about protest. And protest is certainly a useful tool. We got to get that message out there. We got to demonstrate that not everybody agrees with the status quo. But it feels to me like protesting is not necessarily getting all the work done. And what should people be doing, and especially people who are pagans, be doing to help get beyond the protest? How do we re-steer the ship? What can be done to effectively combat this ignorance and this bias that's going on?
Well, there are a number of things that we can do. First of all, we have more tools in our toolbox than the average person does because we're friggin' magical practitioners. We should use those tools. And yes, there will be people that will disagree with, using magic for political or activist purposes. I am not one of them. The other thing is we have to back up those protests with action. We need to, write and call our representatives both at every level. There's a saying that all politics are local. That is absolutely true. You need to vote in every friggin' election. I don't care if it's for dog catcher or president. You need to vote in every election. And when there is legislation pending that is not to your liking, you need to, even when you have someone like, we just recently had Cawthorn as our elected official, and still do until the the midterms coming up. But even though he was a word that I can't say on here, and is worse than dickhead, I still called and sent messages to his office. And I think just like with magic, okay, if you do magic to find a new job, but you never leave the house, you're going to have a hard time having that bear any fruit. So we have to follow up whatever we're doing with action. So we do magic. So we call our representatives. We friggin' vote. I don't care what it is, you vote. I don't care if you're sick, vote. There are many ways to vote. Pick one. And we have to stay on point, and we have to keep up the pressure. The only way that democracy works is when we all friggin' show up, and we have got to show up. We have got to stand up. When we see something that we know is an injustice, we have to stand up in that moment. That is the only way. That is the only path forward. Because if we don't all stand up, and we don't all stand up together, we're friggin' screwed. So that's my 2 cents.
And with that, we need to go to the witches cabinet.
In today's Witches Cabinet, we are going to look at how to make informed intentions for the magic we're going to work, which probably means a little bit of research. Would you agree, Star?
Oh, I would. I think that before you do any kind of magical working, you should have a really clear idea of what you want the outcome to be, but also to know your subject. And research plays a very important role in all of that.
So within the ideas of social justice that we've been talking about, what can a practitioner do to better inform themselves about the realm they are trying to influence?
Right. So I think first and foremost, they need to understand how our government works, how laws are passed, how bills are written, and that whole process. Now, some of us who are old will remember the Schoolhouse Rock videos. Excellent place to start. And you can find those on they're all over YouTube. But there are a number of really good, solid websites that offer information on how our government works, on civics and the role that government plays in society, and how we can engage and be a part of that. The other thing that I think is really important to note is that if you are unhappy with your representative or your government or any part of that you need to be aware that most institutions and offices, like the office of president or secretary or whatever, governor, that all of those, because we have the Freemasons to thank for this in many regards, have protections built into them. So you never want to attack the office or the institution. You want to go after the person holding that office, and also the areas that might bring pressure to bear on that office holder. So like your fellow constituents, and approach it from that angle. Never underestimate the pressure that the public can bring when they are unhappy with an issue.
Right. And I would even say that you want to be cautious about going after the person, because you're not really trying to do anything with a person. You're trying to deal with what their office is doing, how they are affecting things. And it should be very, very outcome driven, what it is you want. I don't want this person to do a certain thing. I want this thing to be done. Whoever does it, however they do it, don't care. If Ted Cruz has a change of heart and starts living right, so be it. All right? As long as the stuff gets done. Because I think we can get very deflected by how we think it should be accomplished. And the outcome is really what we want to do, and then get out of the way, let the universe have it.
Right. And that's very, very valid. I think as humans, we tend to be control freaks. We think we have to have control over everything, down to the, minute detail. Being focused on what we need the outcome to be, what we want to see as the result of the work that we're doing. That's important. And when I said the person, I meant, like not necessarily hexing to kill them or anything like that, but to influence their opinion, to influence and inform their actions, whether it's opening their eyes to what the reality of what they're proposing is. And also you have to recognize that for some people, that is just clearly not going to happen. I'd be all for, DeSantis to be rolling out of bed and saying, "Oh my gosh, what an idiot I am. Why would I have proposed things?" And I'm someone who believes that everything is possible, but I do believe a good number of those are improbable. So I think you have to, you also have to couch your terms in, to work within what is possible. And sometimes what we want just simply is not possible. I would like for all of America to wake up tomorrow and not be a bunch of racist assholes, but I don't see that happening anytime soon either.
Right. And by not really understanding how things work, I think it's very probable that you'll point your intention in the wrong direction. Right. For example, you might want President Biden to create legislation about universal health care. Well, he can't create legislation. The president can't create legislation. The legislative branch does that. And so any of your, you may just get all this energy behind him, get him all gung-ho to talk about it and everything, but he can't actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so your energy is wasted at that point because you didn't really understand how things work. So if someone wants to get deeper into this, is this hard to learn? Do I have to basically go back to college to figure this out?
Well, not so much. Our government, it does have a number of moving parts to it, and how they all work together and fit is a little complicated. However, there are resources that you can find online, or God forbid, you can go to your local library. There's a terrifying thought. Actually, go somewhere, look up information. Actually, one thing that everybody should remember is that we have public libraries, and they are staffed by these amazing people known as librarians. And most of them have reference desks, and you can go and ask your librarian, "I am interested in learning about how my government works and about civics, and can you direct me to some good solid books on that?" And I can almost guarantee you that they will send you right to the appropriate section and give you a list of books.
And be overjoyed to do it.
Right.
Finally, someone who wants me to do my job.
Yeah, and these days you don't have to use the card catalog. Remember those old days when you had to go in there and you had to figure out about the subject, and then you had to figure out, okay, we got to do the Dewey Decimal System, which I always hated, and then you had to go through the catalog and and it was a lot more hard work. Now they got computers now that you can just type in words.
A lot of libraries have online videos and things like that you can watch. Mm-hmm. You can basically go through a course at no cost. All you got to do is make a little bit of effort.
Yep.
Right. And
community colleges are very inexpensive for those who really want to dig deep and really have a greater understanding. A lot of community colleges offer classes that are negligible in cost and sometimes even free. Start by your local government's website and then work your way up to the state and federal level. And I will provide some links for your viewers where they can do their own research and find their own path forward.
Those will be right in our show notes.
All right. And with that, how can our people find you, Star?
Well, I prefer that they not find me, frankly. Most often I can be found at you can find my writing at the Wild Hunt, which is www.wildhunt.org. Don't go to .com. You'll get to gaming stuff. That's not us. So wildhunt.org. And I am on Twitter a fair amount. My handle is Divine Disturber. You can find me on Twitter. And you never know. I'm like a bad penny. You never know where I'm going to turn up. You'll certainly find me at Mystic South. And you can always find me at the Raven and Crone, Asheville Raven and Crone. I'm there like 3 or 4 days a week.
Speaking of divine disturbers, we got a kitty there.
Yes, we did. I put in an appearance before now.
We always got to see the kitties.
Yeah. So thank you, Star, for coming on. We have appreciated it, and it's been a marvelous ride.
Well, I appreciate you, Nikki, and you, Saul, for having me on. I hope that you enjoyed our conversation. I know I did. And Nikki, I will look forward to seeing you at Mystic South in just a month from today.
I know, it's so close. We got to get there. All right. It seems like I'm going to have a party when I come down. Yeah, people consider me a celebrity now. I'm like, really? I'm not a celebrity. I'm just me. All right. So with that, that's all for our show today. Now, Saul and I will be taking a 2-week break. Yes, 2 whole weeks. You will have to go back and rewatch the last 2 seasons of Witch Hat Chats. But don't worry about it. We'll be back on July 10th to start our season 3 with Star Ravenhawk. So we want to thank our first responders, essential workers, and medical workers for all of your passion, your dedication, and what you're doing in this fight to win in this pandemic. You know, we truly appreciate you. We know how exhausting it is, but we appreciate every single thing you do. And ladies, we need to keep fighting for our rights and make sure that you contact your government and let them know how you feel. And also wear your mask, get your vaccinations and boosters, maintain your 6 feet of distance from each other, and keep your fuzzy babies, your family, and yourself safe. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
I know some people who like to chat. I think they're witches, how about that? And every Sunday at 12 o'clock. And if you're hurting, they're willing to talk. Nikki Kirby with that black stone. I agree, Evermoving We Rise. Life and soul with a beautiful mind. I give you blessings under moonlight. I know some people who like to chat. I think they're witches, how about that? And every Sunday at 12 o'clock. And if you're hurting, they're willing to talk.